All right, Kenman here, and today we are at the customization station. Die project train number 49. All aboard. Before we start, I'm not sponsored by anyone. I purchase everything at retail price. I do these videos because I love discussing knives and sharing info and ideas with others. If you have any questions or thoughts, please feel free to comment below. All right. Die project number 49. We are trucking through these. Let's get some last looks at the Artisan Cutlery Andromeda button lock. Try to remember, I'll get that before and after shot. Here's your before. Bing. Okay. Let me zoom out just a little bit here. Get a little action going on. Last looks. It is a nice button lock. I haven't had a chance to really mess around with it like a lot of knives that I get for the project. I get them, I do an initial unboxing video, then they kind of sit on the table and wait for that inspiration to strike, which it has. We are doing it. This thing is a fun little button lock. Actually, it's a pretty long button lock, but it's got some good action. We're going to dye this jade today. Black blade with black accents, and then you've got the silver button and then the green. So what are we going to do to kind of work with that? Comment below what you think is going to happen. Excuse me. Get out the standard table setting here. Boom, boom. Dinner is served. Click. Okay, let's take this thing apart. It is a button lock, so whenever you have any type of knife, obviously you want to pay attention when you take it apart. But when you have a button, I think that's actually it looks like there's a screw on both sides, but I think that's actually a captive pivot. The one side just kicked loose without spinning the other side, so we are good. Just kind of loosening everything up here. Just get it started. And then I can pay attention when everything starts falling apart here. Because you want to, just in case, especially like I said with something where there's some things going on like a button lock, you really want to focus on making sure you know how it's going to go back together. Don't give yourself as many headaches. One of the first early ones, maybe a dozen or so in, was my Civivi Vision FG. And long story short, when I was putting it back together, I wasn't really paying attention, and I put a pin in the wrong place. And the place that I put that pin actually did not require a pin. So a pin was occupying a spot that didn't need it. So basically I thought I was missing a pin because it didn't go there. It went somewhere else. And I'm sitting there looking around when I've got everything I need in front of me, but I thought I was missing something because I wasn't focused and didn't realize that that hole did not need. Okay, so there is a button, so there is a spring. So I'm going to slowly lift this, make sure that spring doesn't go flying. There is piece one with the liner, and the button is inside the liner. Okay, that's interesting. We've got our barrels. Looks like there's three of those. Where did the third one come from? Oh, 1, 2, and 3. There's one for this one here with the hole in it is for like a lanyard. Okay, the bearings can go either direction, so that makes it easy to remember. There is the spring for the button, and then the other liner has that insert. There it is, falls right out. Set that there. Like I said, that's interesting that the button goes through the liner, but whatever, it's interesting. Like I said, every knife is a little different, so you got to kind of check them out when you take them apart. So there is some oil inside here. I'm going to take these to the sink. I'm going to wash them off really good. That oil will act as a resist. Now on the inside, it doesn't really make as much of a difference, but the thing is these are semi-transparent, translucent. So if the dye resisted right there, also it'll get in the dye, kind of muck it up, maybe end up landing somewhere else. But it would resist there, and that could potentially be a little bit lighter, even though it's on the other side, because the light does shine through these quite a bit. So I am going to take them to the sink, wash them off really good, and get ready for the next step. So we will now see you at the table. All right, we are here. I've got them clean. I've got my hook saw ready. I am gonna be doing a fade dye. Got this motor set up with these hooks to slowly lower it into the dye. Gonna make sure that they're the same height really quick. We're gonna make it darker at the base and lighter where the button is. I'm gonna turn on the motor, and those are gonna start dropping. Okay, so with the dye, like I said, you clean off the scales, get them nice and ready. I have a RIT dye that is mixed with about 2 ounces of dye to about 24 ounces of water, and that gives you a nice dye that you can use and then save in a container and reuse over and over again. You can see the scales are dropping extremely slow. I want this fade to really be gradual, just leveling them out. And so the slower it goes into the dye, the more naturally, slowly gradient words, Kenman, it will be. Basically, heated up dye reacts and works faster with the heat, and the longer it sits in there, the darker it is. So on this motor slowly dropping it in, what's basically going to happen is the spot at the very bottom has had a chance to really sit in there a long time, and the spots up above are only going to sit in the dye for maybe a couple of seconds, and that's going to give us our little bit of a gradient. I've been kind of experimenting with this a bit, doing some different colors and different tests, different speeds. This motor I've got set up, it's about 3 revolutions per minute, but then those revolutions are on a small, like 1/4-inch screw with fishing line wrapped around it. So 3 revolutions a minute is basically about 3 revolutions worth of that fishing line, which is probably only maybe an inch or so. As you can see, we've been going for almost a couple of minutes, and they're barely halfway down. I'm actually interested to see how fast this purple reacts with it. If the dye reacts really quick and I'm not dropping fast enough, then the whole thing's going to be kind of a darker purple, and the gradient won't really be as successful. But generally it takes several minutes to get a darker color. So I'm hoping this top part here is really only going to be in the dye, like I said, for a short amount of time. And the bottom will have been able to have sat in there for several minutes. We should get a nice little gradient. It's been dropping nice and even. The motor hasn't bumped or anything. Although a slightly 1/4 second bump or whatever isn't really going to make too much of a difference. The dye does need some time. If you just splash it in there, splash it out, you will get a little bit of a shade of a color on there, a perfect kind of a stain, but it won't be necessarily dark. Especially with jade. With white will take much darker. Dye can only affect the color that's already there. So with the jade's always going to have a little bit of an effect on it, versus white is going to really make it pop. So white could be much brighter, and jade is going to kind of make it a little bit more dull. All right, we are almost there. Then I'm going to take it out, and we're going to go straight to this rinse and give them a nice little bath. The rinse will basically neutralize the dye completely. We can see where we're at with one dip. All right, they are under. I am going to take them out and go straight in there. I'm going to turn off my motor for a moment. Actually going to take these out wipe the drips off really quick. Got a big drop right there. Okay, so like I said, the water bath neutralizes it. Lets us see where we're at. Okay, so what I'm learning is we're going to need to do several passes. But if you look, you can see where we're at so far. If I flip one of them over, you notice that difference, how it's white. It's really almost white right there. And then kind of that purple there. So what I'm going to have to do is dip this several times. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set that up and do a time lapse of that. And then just keep going until they are the darkness that we desire. And then I will get back to you. Well, let's see what we got here. I kind of got it a little boiling. I'm starting to kind of make some chunks on the top. I'm trying to make sure I rinse all those little splotches. Sometimes if you get her boiling, it kind of makes little pieces that could be little dark spots that could then sit there and continue to make a little dark spot. Okay, let me dab dry these off, get this out of our way a little bit. Let's see what we are looking at. Oh yeah, okay. So they're wet, so it still kind of hides it a little bit, but if you look right there, if that's in focus, that is light. Then we flip it over to here. Pretty dark. I am happy with that. It doesn't always show up as much on camera with these gradients, but I'm going to rinse them off a little bit more, get them dry, and we are going to get back to the table with these and get this thing put back together, right? What do we think? All right, let's see you there. Bam. Oof, man. All these jump cuts are making me a little dizzy. Hopefully you enjoy them. If so, hit that like button and subscribe if you'd like to see more. All right, the fade is subtle, but I think it looks good. I'm happy about it. Let's get this thing back together. Really kind of check it out once it's done. All right, this one's a little tricky. It's a button lock. We'll see how it goes. All right, one of these is the barrel spacer, or not the spacer, it's the for the lanyard. See, that one's got the hole in it, so that one's for a lanyard if you would like to add a lanyard. The other two are just your standard barrel spacers. This has a captive pivot, so if you look, there is a flat spot on the bottom and there is a flat spot on this circle where it goes through, so that side will not spin, making it easier for reassembly. You only need a tool for one side. These bearings are the same on both sides. I like to pay attention to the bearings just to make sure if there is some way that it was to repeat that, because that would definitely be something that might affect how well the blade opens and closes. Okay, so this is the part that's a little tricky. I think I'm going to set this down. All right. And then I'm going to go ahead and put this one. This one lives in here. All right. And then the spring is going to sit in that space. And this button's going to go over that. I'm going to move these tools out of the way. But the button has to sit kind of in this, it has to nestle in this groove of the blade, so I kind of need to put them on at the same time. All right, I'm going to shift this over here. So I'm just going to kind of rest the button in this spot right here and try to set it on the pivot and the spring at the same time. Okay. Now I'm going to try to get over that button, keep these straight. And hope all those clicks were the clicks we wanted. Right? Okay, just to help hold her together, I'm going to put the other side of the pivot in. I'm not going to fully crank it down. I'm just going to get it in there and make sure it's straight. And then just get it to a point where it's not tight, but I just got it just as little pressure so I can relax and that spring, because you always have to be careful when you got a button because there's a spring in there. And if you relieve the pressure on that spring, everything can come boink, shooting out, and then you lose the spring or go shooting across the floor and you spend 10 minutes on a hunt. You know what it's like. There was one I did, I've said before, where one of the pieces dropped to the ground and then rolled under the refrigerator, and then I had to go find a stick just to get under the refrigerator to slide that thing out. It was real. I'm kind of struggling with these drivers today. Holy moly. Wow, that looks great. Okay, so I am a lefty, so I'm going to put the pocket clip on this side, which means the extra screw goes in this side. And is it on the inner one or the outer one? That I'm going to have to go back and watch the tape. I'm guessing it's the outer one, but it might not matter. Man, this bit does not want to sit in this driver. Okay, last couple screws here, and we can then button everything up and see how this last die project we did, or not the last one, but the most recent die project here. I have done quite a few fade dies. This one's a little subtle. Okay, so when you put a knife back together, you have to be careful to get the blade centered properly. So what I like to do is, like I said, everything's just kind of loosely on there right now. So I'm going to go ahead and crank the pivot down all the way. And it's not this side, that's the captive side. It's this side with the button. There we go. So I'm going to go ahead and crank that. Not as tight as I possibly can, but tight. So if anything, the blade should be centered or a little bit that way, because when you loosen it, then it'll go back to center. All right, so that's cranked down. Now I'll go ahead and tighten everything else. I like to go back and forth on both sides. Sometimes when you get one side, especially with like screws next to each other, like for the pocket clip, when you do these here, you do one and then you do the other and then you go back, because it will relieve a little pressure off that second one, because they're right next to each other, and you get the one tight and then it makes the other one just a little looser. And so you just kind of go back and forth a couple times. That was spinning, and now that both of those are tight, there we are. Okay, now we can loosen this back up just a little, but you want to have it not have any play when it's open. So right now we are good. I'm going to go ahead and loosen it a little bit more, see how far we can go before it has play. There, it has a little. So I'll crank it back down just a little bit, and now we are back to solid. You might have to check that once in a while if there isn't any type of like Loctite on there. it can kind of slowly loosen up again. All right, we have done it. Let's get this stuff out of the way. Die project 49? Crap. Yeah, 49. Boom. The Artisan Cutlery Andromeda. Okay, so here, now that it's put back together, you can definitely see the fade at this angle. You can see how dark it is down here, and it just slowly creeps out to this whitish purple up here. It's really subtle, and that's one of the most successful things, I think, in a way, which kind of tricks your eye with the way I'm doing these, with the slow removal, is it's subtle. So that fade is so gradual, you don't notice it. If you just kind of look, you're like, oh, it's all the same color, and you're just thinking it's shadows and stuff. But the reality is it's thinner right there where the button is, so it's darker there. But you can see how light of a purple that is. And then how much of a mid. And then it just gets to this really deep, dark, rich purple on the bottom. I think this is a success. Turned out cool. It's something about the subtlety of it, too, just makes it kind of elegant. Got to break this one in a little bit. Haven't had a chance to really use it. It's an interesting one. I noticed that the way the thumb studs are and the button on it, it just felt a little different. And again, as you use it, wow, I can't flick it out. I'm terrible with flicking out on my left. No flipper tab. Losing my mind here today. What's everyone think about the final color on this, though? And you can just use the button if you want, just to open it. Excellent. Andromeda is an interesting knife. I want to mess around with it some more. I'm kind of all over the place with myself right now, but it looks great. Comment below. What do we think? Oh, we got to do the before and after shot. So I switched the clip, so I'll just do, I think I did the shot here. You can see what it looked like. And now we've got this nice purple fade. Happy about it. Comment below. What do you think about it? One of the only other fades I still currently have is on this Kaiser LP. You can check it out up there. But I've been enjoying the fade dyes, enjoying the custom stuff. You can kind of see a little bit more with that red to orange. But I have affiliate links for Kaiser and Artisan Cutlery down at the bottom. You can use those. Helps out the channel. Pick yourself up one of these. Or heck, one of those. Stay sharp. We'll see you soon.